Hello and welcome back to the Paul Miners podcast. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode. As always, I appreciate your time and your attention because I know how valuable those things are. And today I'm actually recording this video for my YouTube channel as well, so maybe you're watching the video of this instead. So thank you if you're tuning in on YouTube. Now today, I want to talk all about pricing. As an independent worker, learning how to price your services properly is really important. You really will kind of live and die by how you price your service. And this episode is going to be really useful for anyone who's like a kind of freelancer, consultant, coach, or maybe if you're just running some other kind of business, maybe you'll find this useful as well. Now, since starting my own consulting business back in about mid-2016, I've experimented with a few different ways of pricing my service. And in fact, just last month, I started pricing in a whole new different way. And the benefit of trying different, or the reason I try different methods, is to either like save myself time, earn more, or deliver more value to the client. So pricing is kind of a tricky topic. There are loads of ways you can price yourself, and I think people get nervous about pricing because they don't want to overprice themselves and overprice and kind of price themselves out of work. So yeah, we're going to talk about pricing today. And to this day, I actually still use a variety of pricing methods, depending on kind of my client's budget and their needs as well. I will actually use different models or different pricing methods for different clients. And this is why one of the first things that I do when I meet someone is I ask, let's get on a call, let's talk so that I can work out or hear what you need help with, and then I can give them a few options in terms of pricing that might suit their needs and their budget. So the different options that we're talking about, firstly, there's kind of hourly billing, and this is probably the most common way people can price their service. It's the one that kind of everyone understands. So it's a simple exchange of time for money. Somebody charges $100 an hour, you work 10 hours, you make $1,000. Very simple. And I get asked all the time, what's your rate? And this is basically someone asking, what do you charge per hour? So the advantages, first of all, of hourly billing, well, firstly, like I said, it's very simple. And I think the reason most people charge hourly is because it's the one that most people know, and people just say, what's your rate? And you think, oh gosh, I don't have one, I'll have to charge by the hour. But you actually don't have to. The other benefit is that it is kind of less restrictive in some ways, or it is for my business, compared to other pricing models. So if a client doesn't want to sign up to like a retainer, which is obviously, like an ongoing monthly fee, or they don't want to pay a big fixed fee for like a big project, then maybe an hourly arrangement, something more casual, is more appropriate. But there are a number of disadvantages to hourly billing. So firstly, it does encourage inefficiency because it misaligns the incentives of the client and the freelancer, coach, consultant, whatever you do. Because in order to earn more money, you just have to work more hours. So basically, you kind of get rewarded for being inefficient. But someone who's good at their job, like a consultant or coach or freelancer who's actually good, will do the job quicker, ideally, which is better for the client, but you're actually going to earn less money as a result. So this kind of misalignment doesn't really make sense. It's also kind of risky for the client because when you start a new project, you usually have to begin with an estimate of how long the project will take. And if I say, I think it's going to take us 10 hours, but then we kind of get going and it takes us like 15 hours, now your cost has gone up by 50%. And so clients usually aren't that happy when this happens. And so often we wear that ourselves and we say, oh, I'll work 15. Okay, well, I'll just forget the other 5. I'll only charge you for 10. So sort of creates a little bit of resentment in the relationship. But it's risky for the client, especially when you are trying to make important financial decisions for budgeting reasons. The client also has to make a purchase decision every time they want to talk to you. So for example, like when someone wants to get help from me, I don't really want them thinking, oh, do I have to pay Paul for this? Like, I'm not sure if I should. Like, I just want them to pick up the phone and talk to me because then I can help them, I can deliver more value, I can have better clients, better relationships. I don't want people to have to go through this purchase decision every time they want to talk to me. And then finally, it does create like a natural cap on what you can earn because there's obviously like a finite number of hours in the day. And you can only earn so much at a given rate. And so the only way to really increase your income after that is to increase your rate. But again, there's kind of a cap on what you can earn. It gets to a point as a designer or a consultant when, you can't charge $10,000 an hour. You're kind of going to get to a point where you've reached your limit. So that is hourly pricing or hourly billing. Now let's talk about value or fixed pricing. And this is where you quote like a fixed fee for a project where there's usually like a set list of deliverables that you're going to deliver on. And this is a pricing model that I learned from Jonathan Stark, who it teaches people about how to price their service in terms of value. And that's the key here, because if I consult to a company, let's say I do a great job and I'm able to make them earn an additional $250,000 per year, that's awesome. It's not unreasonable to charge 5 to 10% of this value. And why wouldn't the client pay that? I mean, if they're $250,000 better off, to pay 12.5 or 25K is not a lot if you're getting a guaranteed return in terms of value. And so the benefits of value pricing, firstly, it removes risk for the client, like I talked about before, because they know their financial commitment up front. They don't have to make a purchase decision when they want to talk to you, and you are instead kind of wearing that risk yourself. So the benefits of value pricing, firstly, it removes the risk for the client. So as I said before, hourly billing kind of misaligns the incentives of the client and the freelancer, and because it's hard to estimate the hours required to do a job, there's more risk for the client. And instead, with value pricing, the client knows what their financial commitment will be up front, and even if the project takes longer than expected, they're not going to get like a surprise bill further down the line. In fact, a lot of clients are more than happy to pay a little bit extra if you remove this risk for them and you take on the risk yourself. Second benefit is that it forces the freelancer or the consultant to prioritize value instead of time, which is really what matters for you or for the client and yourself. So instead of dragging out a project to earn more money, the consultant is rewarded when they deliver more value in terms of maybe you're increasing sales, maybe you're reducing costs, maybe you're improving productivity, whatever it is, you are rewarded when you produce more value for the client. And if you can do that in an efficient way, even better. It also increases your potential earnings because by removing that income cap that hourly billing creates, you can now potentially earn a lot more. And finally, you can, I think, work with fewer clients and better quality clients as well. By adopting value pricing, you naturally attract people that can afford slightly higher prices, who are higher quality, and who prioritize value instead of time. They're not as budget conscious as well. However, there are a few risks or downsides to value pricing. So firstly, as I mentioned, you now have to wear the risk on the project. This is because, if you estimate maybe a project's going to take you 10 hours, takes you 15, 20, now that's kind of on you. You've obviously just charged a fixed fee, and so maybe you don't earn as much as you could have had you charged hourly. So to manage this risk, you really need to just try and get as accurate as you can with the estimates that you make before you charge and quote on a project. So this gets better if you can track your time. This is why I track my time. So you can get better at estimating the length of a project. And in general, I'll estimate a project and say, maybe it's going to take 20 hours. And then I'll even add like 50% and build that into my quote. And that's basically me charging for risk. And again, clients are usually more than happy to pay for you to take on this risk. If it's just a fixed fee that you're removing the risk, it doesn't matter what the hours are. A lot of clients are more than happy for you to pay that. And then finally, you don't get paid for changes or scope creep. If the project changes, you won't get paid, and so it's a slight disadvantage. It's because you're charging a fixed fee. If the project changes, it goes in a different direction, or the client asks for more and more stuff, this scope creep can be a tricky thing to manage. And so to manage this, you need to conduct proper due diligence at the start of the project, get clear on what you're going to be delivering, and research first what the client needs as well. This will help you to kind of reduce that scope creep so that the client's not constantly asking for more changes beyond what they initially discussed with you. And then finally, the kind of third and final pricing model is retainers. This is where you charge a fixed fee, maybe on a monthly basis, for ongoing work and support. It's a bit like value pricing, but it's kind of a monthly recurring fee, and this is very common for like marketing agencies or design firms where you're doing ongoing work for someone. Personally, I don't do a lot of retainer work myself because the work I do is just more one-off in nature. It just lends itself to fixed pricing and hourly billing. But the benefits of retainers, well, firstly, it does allow you to create a consistent source of income. If you have a few clients paying you a monthly fee, it's just a nice sustainable source of cash flow. And you're not having to chase clients every month as well. So I'm often, I need new clients coming in all the time. Retainers kind of eliminates that, which is really nice. However, the disadvantages of retainers, well, you can become dependent on a couple of big clients, and then if they go away because they hire someone, they go with a different agency, whatever, now you could take a sudden drop in income. And depending on how you look at this, lower client turnover, I think, can be a disadvantage as well. Personally, I enjoy working with a big variety of people, and I have known independent workers who have worked with people on a retainer basis, and then maybe the relationship's not as healthy or as enjoyable as it once was, and it's kind of hard to get out of the relationship when you are getting that nice, consistent income on a monthly basis. So I enjoy the client turnover, which you don't get as much potentially with retainers. So those are a couple of ways you can price your service. Obviously, those are just a couple of methods. There's going to be loads more ways you can price your service, so feel free to do your own research. In terms of how I actually apply this in my business, well, I use the hourly model for clients with a smaller budget where they just want a more casual relationship. So if they just need me for a few hours, I generally go hourly. And this is usually more cost-effective for the client and better if they just have a smaller budget. To ensure I can deliver value, I do request like a 3-hour minimum. I found that 1 to 2 hours is usually just not enough time for me to do my job and do a good job in that amount of time by the time I've kind of learned what they're all about. And I don't want my calls to be super rushed as well. So with this in mind, it actually helps me to filter out low-quality clients, because if someone is super budget conscious and they only want an hour and they're trying to cram in as much as they can into that hour, I would rather not work with them. I want to work with people who are happy to spend a couple of hours with me. We can develop a better relationship, and I can actually do a good job and make sure I thoroughly understand them at the end of the day. And then I will use value or fixed pricing for bigger projects. So if someone wants me for more ongoing support and training and integration work, I will charge a fixed fee. This reduces the risk for the client, and it's better because then I'm not having to estimate the hours and produce a quote based on an estimate, which is going to be very risky. And so I'll just send a proposal with a list of deliverables and a fixed fee. These projects usually come with like a set time frame as well, maybe about 8 weeks, and I'll then give an extended like 30-day support period. So after the project is done, they actually still get access to me for 30 days after that. Again, it's all about reducing risk and delivering value for the client. And then finally, I've actually recently started experimenting kind of with what I'm calling payment plans, a bit like a retainer, but not really, ongoing. What I do is I might charge in 3 installments over 3 months, and in total the client might end up paying more than they would with my fixed price project, but what they get for that additional fee is more flexibility and longer support as well. So like I said, with a fixed fee project, maybe it's a set list of deliverables, but with my payment plan I give them the option to add to that, and they have the flexibility to change the scope as we go. And they get a longer engagement with me, more support with the adoption and rollout of their software. And this payment plan option is great for clients. Some people really appreciate paying in installments, and it's even good for me because it spreads out my income. Instead of receiving one lump sum in one go, I can actually get a somewhat sustainable source of income by taking 3 payments. So those are a few different ways that I'm experimenting with pricing in my business. As I said, I'm always testing and trying new things and working out how I can be more efficient and, just earn more for my time, but deliver high value for my clients as well. And I hope this gives you an insight into the different ways you can price your service, so you don't just go to hourly billing and think that's the only way you can charge. I know that, pricing is this sensitive topic and lots of people get nervous about it. So if you have any questions, please leave me a comment below this video or head on over to my blog, paulminers.com/96, and leave me a comment. Thank you one more time for watching this video or listening to this podcast, and I will catch you next time on the Paul Miners Podcast.